Hey guys, hi, I'm Anuja. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Bookfellow India. And today I'll be discussing book summary on another of my favorite book, which is The Romantic Manifesto by Ayn Rand. So this book is actually written on the topics and on the topics of romanticism and art, and it actually talks about this vague thinking that revolves around the subject of art. And the writer actually states the importance and the purpose of art into human existence and human life. What is more interesting in this book is that if you're a newbie and you are new into philosophy books, then you won't find it difficult to understand, because the writer has started the book with very fundamentals and then has proceeded to the core subjects of the book, which is romanticism and art. So today I'll be discussing some of the important lessons of this book, and also giving you a summary of it. The first chapter of this book is psychoepistemology of art. Psychoepistemology is actually the interaction between the conscious mind and the automatic functions of subconscious mind of a human brain. So this chapter discusses about how art serves no other purpose than contemplation, and the pleasure which is derived from this contemplation is so intense that it is so self-satisfying and self-justifying. It argues that those of you who think that art serves no purpose, it does serve a purpose, but only thing is that it is not a material purpose. It actually preserves the consciousness of human mind. So that is not material, but it is equally important for a human existence. So yeah, this chapter is all about it. And another chapter of this book is philosophy and sense of life, which is yet another important chapter. And this is my favorite chapter of this book. And it explains what sense of life actually is and how it is derived. So basically, a sense of life is a pre-conceptual equivalent of metaphysics, an emotional and subconsciously integrated appraisal of man and of existence. So clearly speaking, it is early value integrations of a man which remains in a fluid plastic or an easily amendable state till he attains utmost consciousness. Another of a very important chapter is the art and sense of life, in which the author has connected the sense of life with art, and she explains that it is the artist's sense of life which helps him or her to decide on the style and the subject of art and integrate all his work into a single piece of artwork. And also, it is and while it is the viewer's sense of life that helps him or her to perceive the art, to consume the art, and how he or she understands the art. So actually, sense of life is what? Sense of life is actually integration of values that one has right from the beginning until he or she actually attains utmost consciousness. So it actually comes from personal experiences, and it differs from person to person. So every person will perceive a artwork very differently. So that's how sense of life plays an important part. And in this chapter, our author also argues that it is not the journalistic information or moral guidelines or scientific education that art gives. It actually is. It gives confirmation to certain values. It gives certain confirmation to sense of life. So it actually differs from person to person, and there is a very interesting quote at the end of this chapter, which is,
When one learns to translate the meaning of an artwork into objective terms, one discovers that nothing is as potent as art in exposing the essence of a man's character.
art and cognition, which is another very important and a longer chapter. It answers a very common question about art, which is what can be properly classified as an artwork or a work of art. To answer this, the author has actually considered four major branches of art and of the specific physical media it employs. First is literature, which creates reality by means of language, and painting by means of color, and sculpture by means of 3D form, music by sound produced by periodic vibrations, and architecture by recreating reality structure.
It is the destruction of logic that disarm the victims, and more specifically, the destruction of the definitions. Definitions are the guardians of rationality, the first line of defense against the chaos of mental disintegration.
So the next chapter is about the basic principle of literature. It was formulated by Aristotle, and it is the most important principle of aesthetic of literature, which said that fiction is more important than history because history represents things as they are, while fiction represents as they should be or ought to be. So this chapter discusses about the four major attributes of literature, which are theme, which is a novel's condensed and abstract meaning, and the theme gives a purpose to the novel. And the other one is plot, which is the plot of novel of any piece of literature is the skeleton of it. So it determines the placement of and the distribution of elements like characters, dialogues, background, setup, etc., and it determines the events and the entire uh, movement of the story. So another one is the characterization, which is of course the unique traits of a particular piece of literature. It is done through various means and through dialogues and actions. And the part also talks about what makes a character of the novel unique in its unique. It can be through the character's motivation, inner conflicts, etc. That's what makes the character unique, and that's what characterizes the entire story of the novel. The last one is a style, of course, which is very important, and it is it has two fundamental elements, which is choice of content and the choice of words. So choice of content and particular words and sentences which are used in the content to communicate the ideas um, is what style is about a novel or a book. And the author has compared two sample excerpts to illustrate this two different styles in the book. So the next chapter is what is Romanticism. So in this chapter, the author explains how Romanticism is the product of two major influences of 19th century, which is Aristotelianism and capitalism, where Aristotelianism is basically um, Aristotelianism basically liberated man by giving the power to his mind, and capitalism actually gave power to the man to translate his ideas into practice. So in this book, author explains the and clears the meaning of romanticism, which is absolutely not related to being romantic. And in this chapter, she also explains a difference between romanticism, naturalism, and classicism. So she says that romanticism is basically consists of three qualities, major qualities, which is ingenuity, imagination, and the sense of drama. While naturalism is purposeless progression of events, she draws a very major difference between the naturalism and romanticism, which is romanticism is basically evokes inspiration among men, and it gives a purposeless progression and the possibility of a new event. While naturalism, she termed naturalism as just a backfence gossip, which is highly admirable nowadays, and it is nothing but a purposeless progression of events without any purpose, and it doesn't evoke any such sort of imagination. Two chapters, which are the last, are the aesthetic vacuum of our age and the bootleg romanticism. So Ayn Rand, in this chapter, which is the aesthetic vacuum of our age, she explains. She actually opposes a very common saying which is there regarding art, that is, the reason is the enemy of the artist. And as we know that Ayn Rand has always been a very strong advocate of reason and logic, and not just in this book. She has always supported rationality on the high grounds in all her books. So in this chapter also, she is strongly opposes this common saying that reason is the enemy of an artist. And the last chapter, which is the bootleg romanticism, it is it says that art and literature is the barometer of the culture. it reflects the sense of life of a society and its people. So that there are three emotions which dominate the sense of life of every modern man, which is fear, guilt, and pity. And that's what she explains in this entire chapter. And there are other chapters in this book after this, which talks about the art and moral treason. And the other author ended this chapter uh, with her goal of writing. She explains why she is writing this book and why she has chosen this topic to write a book. And she explains that her cause is not just um, a philosophical or a moral enlightenment, rather something else, which you would find out after reading this book. I've read many books of Ayn Rand before, and I really love the author very much. And I was very excited to read this book since it was based on art and literature. It added to my excitement. And also, I gave a very deep thought on some of the topics which was explained in the book regarding art and literature. And I strongly recommend this book if you are into these subjects. It will definitely gonna give you new perspective, and you will really gonna enjoy it.